There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who knows her worth, a woman who refuses to lower her standards just to fit into a world that often asks her to shrink. She does not chase validation, nor does she bend herself to be more likable. She stands firm, and because of that, she is unstoppable. But here's what many don't understand. Having standards is not about being difficult or demanding. It's about knowing who you are and what you stand for. It's about having the courage to say no to anything that diminishes your value, even when that means standing alone. A woman with standards does not lose herself in relationships, friendships, or in the pursuit of success. She knows that her worth is not determined by how many people approve of her choices. She understands that true fulfillment doesn't come from pleasing others, but from staying true to herself. Standards are not about being demanding or difficult. They are about self-respect. A woman who sets high standards is not just making a statement about what she expects from others. She is defining how she values herself. Her standards serve as a blueprint for the way she moves through the world, dictating the kind of energy she allows into her life and the level of respect she commands. Self-respect begins with recognizing one's worth. It is easy to settle for less when self-worth is unclear or uncertain. But a woman with self-respect does not wait for others to affirm her value. She establishes it herself. She understands that her worth is not determined by external validation, but by the way she carries herself and the principles she upholds. When a woman sets high standards, she is not just telling others how they should treat her, she is reinforcing what she believes she deserves. If she allows herself to accept behavior that is beneath her, she is silently communicating that she is willing to settle. But when she refuses to tolerate disrespect, dishonesty, or mediocrity, she is making it clear that she values herself too much to entertain anything that does not align with her principles. This does not mean she expects perfection from others. High standards are not about unrealistic expectations, but about clarity in values. She does not demand that people meet impossible criteria, but she does require respect, integrity, and effort. A woman with self-respect does not accept inconsistency, broken promises, or half-hearted efforts. She does not justify red flags, hoping that things will change. Instead, she chooses people who reflect the same level of care and commitment that she brings to the table. One of the greatest challenges in maintaining high standards is the fear of being alone. Many people lower their expectations out of loneliness, convincing themselves that something is better than nothing. But a woman with true self-respect knows that being alone is not a punishment, it is a privilege. It is better to walk alone with dignity than to be surrounded by people who drain her energy, disrespect her values, or make her feel small. Her standards also extend beyond relationships. They shape the way she approaches her work, her goals, and her daily habits. She does not cut corners or settle for mediocrity in her career. She puts in the effort to achieve excellence, knowing that her work is a reflection of who she is. She does not allow herself to be undervalued in the workplace or taken advantage of in her professional life. She asks for what she deserves, and she does not apologize for it. Her self-respect is also evident in the way she takes care of herself. She does not pour all her energy into others while neglecting her own well-being. She prioritizes her mental, emotional, and physical health because she knows that self-care is not selfish, it is necessary. She surrounds herself with people who uplift and inspire her, not those who diminish her confidence or make her question her worth. People often misunderstand a woman with high standards. They may call her difficult, picky, or demanding, but she does not lower herself to meet other people's expectations. She holds her ground. She knows that those who truly belong in her life will respect her boundaries rather than challenge them. At the core of her standards is a simple truth. She refuses to shrink herself to fit into places that were never meant for her. She understands that having standards is not about controlling others, it is about honoring herself. And because she does this, she never loses sight of who she is. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Some see them as walls, barriers that shut people out, signals of coldness or selfishness. But in reality, boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that define how we allow ourselves to be treated. They are not about isolation, but about self-respect. A woman who understands the power of boundaries does not use them to push people away. She uses them to create relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and emotional safety. Without boundaries, life becomes chaotic. When a woman does not set clear limits, she finds herself pulled in 100 different directions, constantly drained and giving more than she receives. She may feel obligated to say yes when she wants to say no, tolerating behavior that goes against her values just to keep the peace. But peace that comes at the cost of self-respect is not true peace. It is self-betrayal. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care. It means defining what is acceptable and what is not, making it clear where she stands. It is about knowing when to walk away, when to say no, and when to demand better. It is not about controlling others, it is about having control over her own life. She does not ask people to change for her, but she decides what she will and will not tolerate. Many women are conditioned to believe that setting boundaries makes them difficult, demanding, or unkind. They are taught to prioritize others, to be agreeable, to accommodate, but the truth is, a woman who sets boundaries is not being selfish, she is being self-aware. She knows that saying yes to everything and everyone will only leave her exhausted and unfulfilled. She understands that in order to give her best to the right people, she must first take care of herself. Boundaries apply to all areas of life: relationships, work, friendships, even personal time. In relationships, they define what kind of treatment is acceptable. She does not tolerate disrespect, dishonesty, or emotional manipulation. She does not allow herself to be used or taken for granted. If someone consistently crosses her boundaries, she does not argue or beg for better behavior. She simply removes herself from the situation. In friendships, boundaries help her surround herself with the right people. She does not entertain one-sided relationships where she gives endlessly but receives nothing in return. She values deep, reciprocal connections over surface-level friendships that drain her energy. If a friend constantly disrespects her time, dismisses her feelings, or takes advantage of her kindness, she sets limits or lets go. At work, boundaries allow her to protect her time, energy, and worth. She does not overextend herself just to prove her value. She does not allow colleagues or employers to exploit her skills without proper recognition or respect. She communicates clearly, sets expectations, and does not apologize for prioritizing her well-being. One of the most important boundaries a woman can set is with herself. She does not allow self-doubt to dictate her choices. She does not engage in negative self-talk or let fear stop her from pursuing her goals. She respects her time, ensuring she has space for rest, growth, and self-care. A woman with boundaries is not unapproachable. She is confident. She is not distant. She is self-respecting. She does not need to please everyone because she knows that the right people will honor her limits. She understands that those who truly care about her will respect her boundaries, not resent them. Ultimately, boundaries are not restrictions. They are the foundation of healthy relationships, personal growth, and emotional well-being. They are the guidelines that protect her peace, honor her self-worth, and ensure that she never loses herself in the process of giving to others. Compromise is often seen as a necessary part of relationships, whether in love, friendship, or work. It is the art of finding common ground, of meeting halfway, of creating harmony between differing perspectives. But what many fail to realize is that compromise should never mean self-sacrifice. A woman who continuously gives up parts of herself to make others happy does not gain respect, she loses herself. There is a difference between healthy compromise and self-betrayal. Healthy compromise allows two people to maintain their values while finding solutions that work for both. It is an exchange where both sides adjust, ensuring neither feels diminished. Self-sacrifice, on the other hand, is one-sided. It is when one person continuously bends, shifts, and shrinks to accommodate another at the cost of their own well-being. A woman who understands her worth knows that true compromise never asks her to betray herself. It does not ask her to silence her voice, lower her standards, or accept less than she deserves. It does not ask her to endure mistreatment, ignore red flags, or abandon her dreams. A relationship, whether romantic, professional, or personal, should never require her to give up essential parts of herself to maintain peace. Women are often conditioned to believe that sacrificing their needs for the sake of others is a virtue. They are told that being accommodating, agreeable, and selfless makes them good partners, good friends, good employees. But what is rarely taught is that constantly giving without receiving, bending without being met halfway, and prioritizing others at the expense of oneself leads to exhaustion, resentment, and a loss of identity. In a healthy relationship, compromise is a two-way street. It means both individuals respect each other's boundaries and are willing to make adjustments without compromising their core values. It means working together, not one person making all the sacrifices while the other reaps the benefits. If a woman finds herself always being the one who gives in, always being the one who adjusts, always being the one who makes things work, then it is not compromise. It is imbalance. Compromise should never require a woman to stay in situations that deplete her, whether it's a job that undervalues her, a friendship that takes more than it gives, or a relationship that drains her energy. She must remember that her happiness matters too. If she finds herself constantly justifying mistreatment, minimizing her needs, or making excuses for others' behavior, she is not compromising, she is sacrificing herself. The ability to stand firm in one's values is a sign of self-respect. A woman who refuses to sacrifice herself for the sake of keeping others comfortable is not being difficult. She is being strong. She is choosing herself, her peace, her happiness. And the right people, the ones who genuinely respect and care for her, will never ask her to lose herself just to make them happy. True love, true friendship, and true respect do not demand self-sacrifice. They encourage growth, mutual support, and shared effort. They create spaces where both individuals feel valued and heard. A woman who understands this will never settle for relationships that require her to shrink. She will not accept conditions that ask her to betray her worth. In the end, compromise should bring balance, not burden. It should be about mutual understanding, not one-sided giving. A woman who values herself knows that any relationship, romantic, professional, or personal, that demands her to sacrifice her happiness, dignity, or identity is not worth keeping. She does not need to lose herself to be loved, respected, or accepted. She stands firm in the truth that compromise should always be a meeting of equals, never the surrender of self. Loneliness is often feared, avoided, and misunderstood. Society paints it as something to be fixed, something that must be escaped at all costs. But for a woman who values herself, loneliness is not a punishment, it is a choice, a protection, and sometimes even a blessing. Because the only thing worse than being alone is losing herself in the process of trying to belong. A woman who understands her worth knows that being surrounded by the wrong people is far more isolating than standing alone. She refuses to stay in spaces that diminish her just to avoid being lonely. She will not settle for friendships that drain her, relationships that break her, or environments that stifle her growth. She would rather walk alone with her integrity intact than lose pieces of herself trying to make others comfortable. Too many people remain in unhealthy situations because they fear solitude. They endure toxic relationships, force meaningless connections, and compromise their values simply to avoid the discomfort of being alone. But what they fail to realize is that in the process of holding on to others, they let go of themselves. A woman who truly values herself refuses to make that trade. She understands that losing herself means silencing her voice when she wants to speak, saying yes when she wants to say no, accepting less when she knows she deserves more. It means becoming a version of herself that is smaller, more tolerable, more acceptable to others, until one day she no longer recognizes herself. That is a cost she is unwilling to pay. Choosing loneliness over self-betrayal takes strength. It takes the courage to walk away from relationships that no longer serve her, to distance herself from people who do not respect her boundaries, and to reject situations that do not align with her values. It means trusting that the right people will come when she remains true to herself, rather than molding herself to fit into places she was never meant to be. Loneliness is not a void, it is an opportunity. It is a space for self-discovery, self-growth, and self-love. It allows a woman to reconnect with who she truly is, to hear her own thoughts without the noise of others, and to build a life that is fulfilling on her own terms. She learns to enjoy her own company, to develop her passions, and to strengthen her sense of self. There is power in a woman who is comfortable being alone. She does not cling to unhealthy relationships out of desperation. She does not tolerate disrespect just to keep someone around. She does not lower her standards because she fears she won't find better. She knows that being alone is not a weakness. It is a declaration that she would rather be whole by herself than broken with others. And here is the truth. The more she values her solitude, the less she settles. The more she embraces loneliness as a season of growth rather than a burden, the stronger she becomes. She stops seeking validation from the outside world and starts validating herself. She realizes that her happiness is not dependent on others, but on how deeply she honors her own needs and desires. A woman who chooses herself over losing herself is unstoppable. She is not afraid to walk away, to stand alone, or to wait for relationships that truly honor her. She knows that true love, real friendships, and meaningful connections will never require her to abandon herself. So she waits not out of fear, but out of respect for the woman she is becoming. Because at the end of the day, loneliness is temporary, but losing yourself can last a lifetime. And a woman who understands her worth knows that no relationship, no friendship, no social approval is ever worth that cost. A woman with standards does not lose herself in relationships, friendships, or in the pursuit of success. She knows that her worth is not determined by how many people approve of her choices. She understands that true fulfillment doesn't come from pleasing others, but from staying true to herself. She has boundaries, not to push people away, but to ensure that those who stay in her life respect and uplift her. She does not entertain relationships that demand her to become smaller. She does not stay in places that make her doubt her value. She walks away when necessary, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much about herself to settle for less. And in a world that constantly pressures women to be accommodating, to be agreeable, and to always put others first, she dares to choose herself. She does not let fear of loneliness force her into situations that drain her energy. She knows that being alone and at peace is far better than being surrounded by people who make her feel unseen and unheard. Her self-respect is unwavering. She does not compromise her values for temporary comfort. She does not change her core beliefs just to make others happy, because she knows this truth. When you sacrifice your standards, you sacrifice your identity. And she refuses to do that. The world may not always understand her. Some may call her too much, others may call her too picky, but she does not let those opinions shake her. She is not interested in being liked by everyone. She is interested in being respected by the right people. She chooses quality over convenience. Whether it's the people she surrounds herself with, the opportunities she pursues, or the way she spends her time, she is intentional. She does not accept what is easy. She builds a life that aligns with her values. She does not beg for a seat at any table. She creates her own. And because of that, she never loses herself. True leadership is not about seeking approval. It is about setting an example. A woman who leads by example does not wait for validation from others. She does not adjust her actions to fit expectations or change her beliefs to be more likable. Instead, she moves with integrity, confidence, and purpose, knowing that her influence is not measured by how many people agree with her, but by the impact she makes through her actions. In a world where many seek external approval, it takes strength to stand firm in one's own values. A woman who leads by example understands that leadership is not about pleasing everyone. It is about doing what is right, even when it is unpopular. She is not afraid to take a stand, to go against the grain, or to choose a path that others may not yet understand. Her power lies in her ability to remain true to herself, regardless of who is watching. Approval is temporary, but impact is lasting. A woman who leads by example does not chase recognition or applause. She does not need to be the loudest in the room to be heard. Instead, she lets her actions speak for her. She works hard, she stays committed, and she consistently shows up for what she believes in. While others may seek shortcuts or external praise, she focuses on building something real, something that will stand the test of time. She understands that people are not inspired by words alone, but by the way she lives. Whether in her career, relationships, or personal growth, she embodies the values she hopes to see in others. She leads with kindness, but not weakness. She is compassionate, but not a pushover. She holds herself to high standards, and in doing so, inspires others to rise to their own potential. A woman who leads by example does not need to prove herself to anyone. She does not waste energy trying to convince people of her worth, because she already knows it. She does not let criticism shake her, because she understands that not everyone will understand her journey. Instead of seeking approval, she seeks growth. Instead of waiting for permission, she takes action. When challenges arise, she does not complain, she finds solutions. When faced with obstacles, she does not make excuses, she finds a way forward. She does not blame others for her setbacks, nor does she rely on others for her success. She takes responsibility for her own path, proving that leadership is not about control, but about self-mastery. She knows that true respect is not demanded, it is earned. And it is earned not by words, but by actions. When she says she will do something, she follows through. When she sets a goal, she commits to it. When she makes a promise, she keeps it. This consistency, this reliability is what makes her a leader. People may not always agree with her, but they respect her because they know she stands for something real. In relationships, she does not chase validation. She does not seek love by sacrificing her standards or approval by dimming her light. She remains authentic, knowing that the right people will recognize and appreciate her for who she truly is. Her strength does not come from how many people like her, but from how deeply she believes in herself. She does not fear standing alone because she knows that true leadership often requires it. And over time, those who once doubted her will look back and realize that she was not just walking her own path, she was creating one for others to follow. A woman who leads by example is unstoppable. She does not wait for approval, she does not ask for permission, and she does not let fear dictate her choices. She moves with purpose, with confidence, and with integrity. And in doing so, she leaves a legacy that is not built on popularity, but on undeniable impact. In relationships, she does not chase validation. She does not seek love by sacrificing her standards or approval by dimming her light. She remains authentic, knowing that the right people will recognize and appreciate her for who she truly is. Her strength does not come from how many people like her, but from how deeply she believes in herself. She does not fear standing alone because she knows that true leadership often requires it. And over time, those who once doubted her will look back and realize that she was not just walking her own path, she was creating one for others to follow. A woman who leads by example is unstoppable. She does not wait for approval, she does not ask for permission, and she does not let fear dictate her choices. She moves with purpose, with confidence, and with integrity. And in doing so, she leaves a legacy that is not built on popularity, but on undeniable impact.